So be it. Don't inconvenience you. I know it is. I know you gotta work at it.
Well, you already
It's a fun one though. It would have been kind of nice to have snuck by.
I haven't.
Also, like,
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call will show all members present. We appreciate you attending this evening. The agenda, Mr. Mayak, are there any additions or corrections?
no additions or corrections.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Shanerock to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments this evening, Mr. Mayak.
There is no one signed up, but I would take the moment to recognize our guests that we have with us, our local Boy Scout, Cub Scout, Boy Scout troop, Boy Scout troop, and as part of a requirement for badges and whatnot, they attend a public or a school meeting and go back and discuss it as a troop and kind of reflect upon what took place at a meeting of this sort.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the school board meeting. I hope that you enjoy it and feel that your time was well spent. Thanks for joining us. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Mayak, please.
Yeah, a couple things before I pass it along. Just a reminder, we'll be adding a closed session to our, or planning on adding a closed session to our April board meeting to discuss negotiations and evaluations. And then next week, we do have a study session scheduled for Monday night in New Richland. And that will be budget, transportation update, and buildings and grounds update. Then before I introduce our speakers, I would also introduce Jason Jupetz. Jason is on the agenda as our for the teaching and learning position, approval for that. And Jason is kind enough to join us and say hi. And so maybe after the consent agenda, if we want to open up a comment for Mr. Jupetz. Then we have two of our directors or administrative reports coming in tonight. We have Ms. Heather Harms with Special Ed and Scott Schuler, our Buildings and Grounds Director. So I'll turn it over to Heather, if you would like to present and introduce yourself. And
I'm just going to move over here so I can see the presentation. All right. So I pulled, if you want to move to the next one, please, Sue. I pulled some, just some general data about NRHEG together. We have this year, as of December 1, we have 125 students who receive special education services in the district, and that encompasses students who could be age birth, all the way through senior, and we've also sent some students to the 18 to 21 program in Waseca. We take a snapshot, or MDE takes a snapshot December 1st of every year. And so last year we were down 6 from last year. Over the past 23 years I looked, we've fluctuated plus or minus 10 students, so not too bad over that time. Right now, when we look at our 125 students receiving special education services, 15.53 percent in the district receive services, and that's just below the state average of 16.8%. For staffing purposes, for special education, we struggle sometimes with finding special education teachers. NRHEG has 83% of their teachers are fully licensed, either a tier 3 or a tier 4 license. We do have a couple staff members who are not fully licensed yet. One is an elementary education teacher, and the other one has a 4-year degree but has already looked into, and I believe she's already enrolled in a program to get licensed because she has enjoyed working in the position she's currently holding. When we look at the number of FTEs that we have for special education teachers, and then look at the 125 students, and we do a quick average, our average is about 14-1, which is fairly low. However, that doesn't really play into two pieces of information. One, our early childhood special education teachers can only have so many kids on their caseload. So that brings this average down overall. And then our life skills teacher also can only have up to 8 students on her caseload based on statute for caseload limitations. So 14.1 or 14-1 is not truly what our learning center teachers have on their caseload, but that was just an overall district average. And then we can go to the next slide. So our role in special education, our primary role is child find. Our obligation stems from IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, and also Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. The IDEA child find obligation requires us to identify, to locate, and to evaluate students that we suspect of having a disability and needing special education services to address that area of disability. Section 504, which is a general education responsibility, has a similar obligation to child find, locate, identify, evaluate, and serve should that student be deemed needing those accommodations through a 504. Questions so far? I'm a fast talker.
Let me interject here too, especially for our new board members, that Heather is our special ed director, but we share her with the 3 other schools in Waseca County. So her and her assistant Linda provide services at JWP, WEM, Waseca, and us. Thank you.
So if we go to the next slide, we kind of talk about special education services in our district. And so Mike said that we serve NRHEG along with 3 others. So NRHEG is about 20% of our contract, and that is based on the child count. So we take all 4 districts and we divide it out over the total to figure out what that percent is. So it does fluctuate year to year depending on what child count is in each of the districts. But we have hovered about 19, 20% for quite a few years for the 3 outlying districts. So we have myself as the director. I'm in my 7th year with the 4 districts. And then we also have an assistant director of special education who also helps serve the 4 school districts, and her name is Linda Olivier. We have support staff in our office. We have Angie Lund, who does a lot with the finances with myself and Carla. We spend a lot of time on Google Meets or emailing or phone calls to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to meet all of our requirements. And then we have a special education secretary, and her role in our 4 districts, or 3, the outlying districts, is a little bit minimal compared to her time in Waseca, but she will help teachers with our special education platforms, Fed forms, getting new teachers in, getting them logged in, helping them with it, getting teachers assigned, or kids assigned to their own case managers, so she helps in that respect. And then many of you know Laura Chickas. She is our special education case facilitator who works in both buildings for all grade levels. And she is our lead teacher for special education, and kind of has her foot both in general or special education in the buildings, and also as our kind of go-to person in administration, is a huge communicator with us. And then we have all these our services that are required for us to provide. So we have special education teachers, speech language pathologists, developmental adaptive physical education, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We have deaf, hard of hearing, audiologist. vision teacher, orientation mobility for students with vision impairments. We have a physical health disabilities teacher, and then our typical paraprofessionals. We do provide nursing services to our students if they should need that level. Sometimes it's a one-on-one scenario if the student has significant health issues that are medically fragile. And then special transportation is a related service that we also provide should the student need those services. Okay, I'll pause. Any questions so far? So some of the programs that we offer throughout the 4 districts is the PACE Lab that's housed in Waseca. I don't know that we've had any student access the PACE Lab yet, but that's open to them. It's a work simulation. They can try all the different jobs in 5 different work clusters, and they rate themselves against what someone does it out in the community. So they have a score sheet that they work with their job coaches on. If there's something that they're being timed on, it will tell you what someone in the real job doing out in the community is, how long it takes that person to do it. So they can kind of compare where they're at. They can also experience all these different jobs to figure out what they like, what they don't like, what they're good at, what they're not good at. So they think that kind of helps guide them in making decisions after high school. Can't read that next one. Waseca area site-based programs. So some of our students require a higher level of need, and that is typically students who need 60 to 100% of their day in special education because of their needs. And we do have some students from NRHEG who receive services in Waseca, which is where those programs are housed at all 3 of the buildings, and then the 18 to 21 program at Central Building. Dreambox Learning is an academic program that we started this year. It's both reading and math, and special education teachers have spent a number of PD days with Dreambox to use and get familiar, and then most recent PD was about reading reports and seeing where the students are in that program and how do we push them forward and how do we figure out what they need as we move forward into the program. Dina at the senior, or at the high school uses a program called Teach Town, and that is a curriculum that covers every area of life skills that a student might need. Cooking, health and safety, safety words such that you might see out in the community that they need to know. Also academic standards that she works on with them through that Teach Town curriculum. We are associate members of Southwest Metro Intermediate District. I think we are in our 4th or 5th year as associate members, and what that means is that we have access to programs that are located up in the southern metro. It does go all the way up to Buffalo, but there's a program up there, but we wouldn't access that just because of the nature of that program. We also have services that we can access, and one of the services that we do use down in this district is the board certified behavior analyst. So if we have a student who is starting to have some behavioral struggles, whether that's outward or inward behaviors, we first call in our own staff member who works out of Waseca, behavior interventionist, who would come down and do that initial. If that team still needs some additional help from a certified analyst, we call in the BCBA for short to come down and provide observation and interviews of staff and support staff, and then will give us a plethora of information and supports as well as a write-up on what we can do next. And sometimes that report comes back suggesting that the student needs a higher level of service than what we have in whichever building they might be improving in. We do have the 18 to 21 program, like I've mentioned, as well as Passages, which are for students who have more of that mental health, social emotional type of struggles for Passages, and those are located in Waseca. Passages used to be WCOC back in the day when it was under Waseca's umbrella of service. And then, like I said, we have services up in the metro, and then the one that we really work with is the BCBA when we need some additional support for kids. And then funding, right now, up at the Capitol, and legislation is talking a lot about funding, and one of the areas that's being talked about is cross-subsidy, and that is the money that is left over after we've spent and used our special ed dollars. This is the dollar amount that comes out of the general fund, which is about 42% of the special ed budget, and that's almost $466,000. And that was for FY22, so last school year. Some of the platforms for the organization that I'm a part of, the Minnesota Administrators for Special Education, obviously one of the areas that we are pushing on and advocating for would be funding, having an equitable as well as a sustainable funding system. We also are advocating for qualified special education workforce, and how do we get those tier 1 and possibly tier 2 teachers licensed so that they can be at the same level as their colleagues and their peers, and what support do they need to be able to do that, both program-wise as well as district mentoring programs and support from the local education agency. And then, as we've seen through COVID, that mental health supports for students is becoming a hot topic, as we see more and more students are struggling and needing some mental health supports. So those are our 3 main platforms that we are advocating for as an organization. Some other topics that have come up and that kind of hit home with us a lot in special education is the free breakfast and lunch was passed last week. The other one is the para training that's in talks or a bill to provide paras 16 hours of training per year, which I don't think is out of a normal thing that we typically do for our paras. 8 of those need to be in the first 30 days, which I don't think that is out of line as either. I think the piece that we would have to really figure out is when we have a para that starts mid-year, how do we get those 8 hours in when we want them to be ready and jump in. That's some work we'll have to do if that comes through. The other one is Part C, early intervention services, which are birth to 2 or birth to up to age 3 teacher. Wallace has proposed starting a new department called Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So there was some worry that all of our birth to 2 teachers would be moved out of the school districts and put under this department. There was a recent memo from MDE that is not the case. They would still be our employees. They would just have a different reporting. Instead of MDE, they would have this Department of Children, Youth, and Services, which is would also encompass public health and DHS, looking really at how do we support the family from all of our agencies to give them comprehensive services. Early intervention is proven to be the best way to get students moving forward in their educational career, and that's kind of the mindset in proposing that department. And then the other one that we're interested in is the prohibiting of dismissals of students. Can't suspend students who are in kindergarten through grade 3. So I think that's all I have. If I could just go back real quick to cross-subsidy. Back in 1975, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act was passed, and they said that federal government was to provide 40% of our special education costs. They currently are at about, give or take, 13%. And so some of that push is state-wise pushing federal to provide more special education funding, and obviously local pushing for state and feds to provide more funding, because if feds don't do it and state doesn't do it, it comes back to a local education agency.
Would you clarify that you talked about that cross subsidy 400,000? That was a cross subsidy amount, or that's a special ed?
No, that's cross subsidy amount.
400,000 is coming out of.
466, yep, which is about 42% of the special ed budget.
Okay.
Yep. No questions?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Heather.
Next up.
Then I'll introduce Mr. Scott Schuler, our Buildings and Grounds Director. Scott?
Hello. Well, I'm definitely not gonna top that speed. I was a little unprepared, I guess, of what I was going to be doing here, but anyway, other than basic everyday duties, kind of learning the building as we go here. Started in September. A little bit of mowing at the time. Now we're hopefully through the winter season, so basically this winter's been a lot of snow removal, other than we've got a few different projects. Some are completed, some are not, or just kind of figuring out the heating, boiler system, roof units, how all that works. I did go in and get my first step boiler's license taken care of. Just learning both buildings. I mean, a little more. I got more time into the high school and starting to get some things figured out over here in Allendale too, as far as how everything works. Finding in the high school just a lot of unfinished projects or stuff that's not working, how long it's not been working, various things. Did it ever work? Yeah, did it ever work? We've got the new sprinkler installed in the paint booth in the high school. Set in the first couple weeks I was here, we had the suppression system triggered. It was serviced one day in the kitchen, and later that day during service something wasn't done right, and it triggered the sprinkler system in the kitchen, so there was some equipment that got ruined. That's been replaced. We've added some soft water in the kitchen. Some of the equipment needed to have soft water run through it, and it didn't. That's kind of one of the reasons. The steamer was built up from running hot water through it. We got some shot clocks getting installed in the gym. We've replaced some bleachers in the middle school gym here recently. There was some front entry doors that got replaced last summer that had temporary glass in them. It was non-insulated glass that just got installed here last week. Other than that, it's been a lot of chasing, going around, figuring things out, but working on updating the fire alarm system, card readers, cameras, outside lighting project. We're gonna add some more lights on the outside of the high school and the parking lot. Other than that, a lot of minor repairs here and there. Like I said, I wasn't able to work with Richard at all before I started, so we're basically just kind of figuring things out as we go here. I think for the most part it seems to be going well. Got a couple more custodians hired here that are helping us out now. Other than that, anybody's got questions on anything?
Your objective is to get your boiler's license, Scott? Is that
I do have the special.
okay?
I did get that license, and then I gotta work so long before I
Okay.
can take the next step up.
Sure.
See.
That is the ultimate goal, though. Of good.
Yeah, one more step up
Sure.
is all you need for
Appreciate you
the
working
type of
towards
boilers
that.
we have.
Good. Any update on the roofing project here at the elementary on any of that, where that's at for?
I did talk to Garland's here last week, and naturally, we're supposed to find out this week. He's gonna be back.
Okay,
Let me know on that final price for the repair part.
sure.
And then there is some warranty work between this building and the high school that we'll take care of. So we're still supposed to be on the schedule for that. We were up here today and replaced the motor on the exhaust fan for the kitchen, or for the dishwasher exhaust fan. Other than that, it's different valves and whatnot. And also this winter, we were finding out, a few new roof leaks between the two buildings, which might be a one-time deal. It's hard to say. I mean, we've had a lot more snow this year than we had in the past. Snow and ice is finding its way in. Hopefully we're over that.
I have the privilege of getting into the garage in Richland for some reason here a couple weeks ago, and I did notice some clutter has been removed from that garage, so appreciate you addressing that situation and improving it, so that is a welcome task.
Clutter in a few areas.
You may not run out of it in your lifetime, actually. So, the point of the subject is to encourage you to continue to remove. So,
And having Scott on board now with this Site Logic project, we're just really kind of ramping up on here. That's really gonna help a lot. But it's, I feel like it would take a lot of your time for all those meetings, but just having that consistent person is gonna be huge.
Yeah, and that's another project we've been working on is getting ready for what projects we got this summer and what's getting replaced this year, what gets replaced next year.
any other questions or comments for Scott? Once again, thanks for joining us here, though. I've had a lot of compliments through a demanding winter to start off with, and efforts and work there, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Scott.
In the next meeting, I'll be a little more prepared. Like I said, I'm sure there's other stuff that I'm not thinking of right now, but it's been busy. I'm not one to sit around much.
The plan for our April meeting would be to have Sarah and Dan, potentially Dan Stork, and then Mr. Butter, you doing some tours in April with the new facilities.
Excellent.
Include that with the presentation.
Great. Looking forward to it. Thanks for taking time to join us on these subjects, because we do lose track of them. And, time goes by, and it's nice to get reminded of the going on and what makes it all come together. So thank you, everyone, for taking time to join us throughout the next few months and getting an update on that. So appreciate it.
And I'll turn it over again to our two principals at Mesa Community Ed. I guess the order would be as they appear on the slideshow. So
save the best for first. I'll pop out here. Not a whole lot, as it feels like not a whole lot's going on, but we are very, very appreciative of the nice weather that's coming, because we got to get these kids outside every day. They're driving all of us crazy. But
you've been here how long? Just you've been with us how long here now?
I just learned that.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday.
All right, fair enough.
No, we according to the slideshow, we finished up our February I Love to Read month with a breakfast, green eggs and ham bash. That was fun. It was a lot of excitement. It was kind of crazy to watch 550 people go through the building, and we really didn't know there was that many people there. It was pretty awesome. It was a well-oiled machine. So I forgot to put it on the slide, but Jill Larson, Katie Knudsen, and Laura Chickus are the three that kind of spearheaded that. So if you see them, just tell them thanks and how appreciative you are of their time and lining all of these things up. So kind of moving forward, kind of the same theme with the I Love to Read month. We had projects going all month regarding Dr. Seuss and our STEAM room. I should get Kate Kruger here and kind of talk about that STEAM STEAM room that she's kind of spearheaded this year. She's done some really nice things and projects with kids and kind of cross-curricular, a lot of science projects, English projects and things with all of our students in the building. It's been fun to watch. Student council from the secondary kind of came over and kind of read with our kids as all part of that I Love to Read month. Big night coming on Thursday. I kind of jumped ahead. You can see our registration night for Bridges and kindergarten. I believe the number this morning from Jean, and I'm sure Macy will probably correct me, we're a little nervous because the number it feels really big right now, but it's 74 potential. And I know some people have backed out from that. But that's the census within our district, within our boundaries, about 74 potential Bridges and kindergarten students. Lord help us. So I don't anticipate 74, but sometimes it's a lot of kids is a good thing too. So I'll be curious to see what Thursday night brings for our Bridges and kindergarten community here. And that, again, this Thursday. Jumping forward to 1 week from tonight on the 27th, through the Title I grant, we were supposed to incorporate some community, getting families engaged into reading and forcing all of our students how important reading is. If you can't read, it's really difficult to do anything else. So that's a big part of our Title I people with our reading interventionists and things like that. So they are having that gathering on the 27th from 5 to 7. We'll have games, crafts, and I think we're feeding the students as well, so that should be kind of fun. Once again, I think it was mentioned last month, that we have a dental clinic coming in on April 4th in our building. If the students are able or eligible to meet that, then they have basically free dental clinic coming in, and they just kind of schedule kids as needs be. They will be in the secondary building on the following day, April 5. And finally, there's just a little thing called the MCA testing going on, starting April 4. I know the secondary's already knee-deep in that stuff already, but we start ours 3, 4, and 5 on April 4, and that's kind of the breakdown of when you'll see some stress in our building. So be a good opportunity to get them back outside after those tests are done. So, and that is the elementary portion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bennett?
Sorry, I beat that part. I'm so thorough.
All right.
Mr. Bud with the secondary report.
All right, so a couple really cool things where kids have been showing what they learned in class and actually competing in some competitions. And this one in particular, the ProStar kids, I was able to sneak up there and get to see a little bit of it up at the XL Energy Center in the, I don't know what they call that part, but the little side spot where they have the exhibit halls and ballrooms and whatnot. And just an awesome event where, they learn what they've learned in class. They get to see people from the food industry and tourism industry and meet those folks and talk with those folks and meet chefs, and just a really neat deal. And a very, very cool thing about it was Kelly De La Cruz is the ProStar Teacher of the Year for Minnesota. And she is having access to some other opportunities too as we move forward. I think this summer she's going to Texas for some training through ProStar. And so just it was unbelievable. And those kids, they got up at,
Really early.
yeah, they were there by 5, I think.
30,
4:30.
5:30, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was really, I did not take Chase, but yes, it was really early.
Got up there and worked all day and then had the awards. This one and like a DECA, you know, there's not necessarily classes like in wrestling, there's, you know, Class A, Double A, and Triple A. These sort of events, you're with there's one, and so you're with all the very large schools, and our kids did awesome. So, let's see, I'm not gonna go through every single one, but what I have started doing through our meetings with our board, or excuse me, our department chairs, I've also asked them to share news within their department, what's going on, what are people studying, and so there are some that are in there and it's kind of sprinkled throughout, but you have some from the life skills, some from physical education, the REACH class, health class, the music department, obviously, they performed outstanding. And if you didn't get a chance to, yeah, I skipped away, we're not that far ahead. If you didn't get a chance to see them, you know, or hear them, pretty amazing. So hats off to them. I'm on this one right here. And that is from, so if you scroll ahead now, that's from the actual competition. And then our students also brought art as well. So very neat, very awesome. You know, it's this time of year that Mrs. Bentley is so happy that she's planning lots of things for the seniors, and so appreciate everything that she does with that. So they're working on some finalizing a class trip to that kind of baccalaureate to the kindergarten time capsule, so all that stuff, and it's fun.
There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it, and she cries after every single year it's all over, right?
Makes me think about it.
But she does an excellent job. We had our second department chair meeting. Much of the discussion was we started looking at what other schools have done in terms of, unfortunately, we have been reactive when kids are not doing well. So credit recovery, summer school, things like that. Those are all reactive, and so we're looking at the potential, is there something that we could do, whether it was daily, whether it was weekly, or twice a month, where kids would get smaller class sizes, because some may be eligible to potentially not be there at that point in time. So and I don't want to do a spoiler alert, because I want to make sure that that we get together and we decide what we think might be best to help our kids. We want to make sure that it's fine-tuned and just a great opportunity for our kids. But that's what we've been kind of working on. There was a launch session with Major Clarity. If you get time, you can click on that. It gives a little bit more information about the program and what they'll have access to. And so now we sent off at least one database the other day, and I think Liz sent the course catalog and whatnot the other day, and so that all gets put into their system, and that will be a really powerful tool. The more and more that I learn about it and get exposed to it, I'll share with you as well. But take a peek at it if you can. And DECA, of course, got to go to the state, and that was a really awesome experience for those kids. And that's the first time around. You know, again, you're competing with Minnetonka, Wayzata, all the big schools. But first round, they really represented us well, and so very proud of them. And just you think about some of the opportunities I think that we don't always look at, and there's a lot of different things that kids get to do that are really cool. That was a new one, and that hats off to Ms. Wigman for getting that going. There's some pictures of that. Then I'm going to skip ahead. I have to mention Annabelle. Have to. First, girls state wrestler for us. It was, you scroll ahead. One of the cool things that the high school league started doing, and I see the NCAA wrestling is doing it now too, is down here you got like 4 tickets the family did for if you had a finalist, and they would get to go down, right down in front and be able to see without any obstruction. And I was very fortunate enough, Daniel was doing some of the videoing, and so I got to sit down there and was right there when Annabelle won. So, and Makota had it's a tough deal. He, had a very tough loss, but placing 3rd in the state tournament was awesome. And Reese or Ralph hadn't wrestled since he was in 5th grade, and he made her to the big show right out of the gate, so that was really fun. Other than that,
Makota's a junior, correct?
who's that?
Makota.
No,
Is he senior? Okay, shoot, he is.
Annabelle's
Can't-
junior and Reese.
Can't get around that Waterville guy.
No.
Got it.
No, and it was pretty tight. And
Right. Well, he's wrestled them how many times with the same outcome?
But
Right.
represented us well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Hats off to all of them.
Yeah,
That's a very
an
big accomplishment
incredible
getting there.
experience.
Absolutely.
Questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Bunn.
Amazing.
All right, I think I'm gonna stand. I'm a little more comfortable standing. Keeps me on track a little more. So, I'm not gonna go through every single program that we have on there, just because a lot of it's constantly ongoing, and a lot of what I put on here is self-explanatory. Our ECFE classes started March 7th. It's always a wonderful group, but I'm so proud of what we have going right now. Amongst Kelly David Cruz's all the other things she has going on, she's also our parent educator for us. She's been doing that for the last 4 years now. So she does a fantastic job with them. We have a total of 13 families, and one of the nicer things I've seen over the past couple of years is the amount of dads that we have in attendance during these classes. So that's excellent to see that. For preschool, we had our open house over in New Richland. We had, at the time, 17 families come in and register their children, which is about right on par for the amount of kids that we have registered at open house. It's usually around that 50 to 60% mark that we have come through the doors. So then we were supposed to have our Ellendale open house here that Thursday, but then the weather was kind of uncooperative. It's kind of hit and miss. So then we have our Ellendale open house tomorrow night, and we'll probably get about the same, about 50 to 60% of attendance at that.
And then usually what I do, after all of our families that come in register for open house, then I take a look at the census that we have and start mailing families information, preschool registration sheets, upcoming opportunities for early childhood, things like that, to try to get them through our doors. And then we also had early childhood screening on Friday, March 10th. Again, the weather mostly cooperated with us, so we didn't have to postpone or delay that. We had 10 of the 11 children show up for screening. So the next screening that we have is going to be Friday, April 21st, and we'll probably screen anywhere from 8 to 10 kids for that too. We had our first family movie night on Friday, March 3rd. We had like 20-25 people show up. I would have loved to see more participation than what we had, but it was just a really kind of a random day. So I think in the future what we'll probably end up doing is tying those to some kind of event or around the holidays to try to draw a bigger crowd and make it more of an event type situation. Because all the family movie nights that we're going to have are free. And then if people can bring food and drink in if they wanted to, otherwise we can just buy the concessions that we have there as well. So for youth recreation, I was actually over here this evening or this afternoon watching our dancers practice for a recital on May 20th. They're doing a fantastic job. We have 56 total dancers this time around, so it's up 20 from our fall and winter session. So that's really wonderful to see. And we actually have a parent and me class going this time, and we have 6 families that are involved in that, and everybody is going to participate in a recital. And the first time around, we had each of the groups of dancers do one dance. This time we're having them do 2 dances. So it's going to be, it jumps from like a half an hour to about an hour. So we'll see how the kids handle that one. Otherwise, we have defensive drivers classes going on over in New Bridgeland. We have a refresher course and a full course, which is 8 hours, the refresher is 4 hours. I was really surprised by the amount of people we have joining us from outside of our school district. That kind of surprised me. A lot of, Blooming Prairie, a couple from Waseca, some from Albert Lee. Not so much New Bridgeland, Ellendale, Heartland, or Geneva, but it was a lot of outside participants, which I absolutely love because then they can come in and see our building and see our remodeled media center and just to kind of get to know everybody.
What's the age requirement on that?
55 plus.
Okay.
You get a 10% discount.
Yeah. When is that again?
All right. Otherwise, for our facility use, youth wrestling wraps up with their pizza party and singlet tournament night on Tuesday, April 11th. We have spring volleyball going on right now. Our community ed brochure, that it's still being printed. I'm hoping we get that within the next couple weeks, so I can mail those out to all of our families. Otherwise, for the grants and donations list that we have going, Kelly De La Cruz, and I helped such a minute amount for this grant, but she wrote a $5,000 grant for a concession stand for new equipment in our concession stand over at the secondary school, in hopes of updating a lot of the equipment and getting one of the ProStart students to supervise the concession area so they can use that as fundraisers and continue on with the fundraisers that are already going on right now. For the concession stand, otherwise, there's a Prairie Care Fund grant. We wrote that for youth mental health for $20,000. And all of the other stuff is just regular community ed grants and applications that I submit every year. Otherwise, in the Richland Area Foundation, we're looking at probably like $15,000-$16,000 worth of applications that are out there right now. And we still just have that National Arts Education Foundation grant pending. So that's what's kind of going on in, I guess, my world. Any questions or anything? No? All right.
Thank you, Macy.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any board member comments this evening? We will move, well, we have the information and communications. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, April 17th at the secondary media at 6:30 over in Richland. Takes us into the consent agenda, and I would appreciate Mr. Mayak introducing those, please.
Again, as always, our school board members have been provided with background information for the items listed on the consent agenda. We'll act as one, with one vote without discussion. If a board member does want to discuss any item, it would be pulled from the consent agenda and voted on separately. For public record, the policies included, oh, I'm sorry, there's no policies on this one, but there are the donations that we'd like to recognize and call out. We have a $250 donation from the Wayne family for DECA, and actually 4 DECA donations in total. Heinz Insurance had made a $250 donation for our DECA program. Keene Bank, a $500 donation. And State Bank of New Richland, a $250 donation for our DECA program. And then American Legion Post 228 of Waseca, a $200 donation for 3 flags that will be displayed and flown in our district. So $1,450 of donations this month, bringing our total to just shy of 110,000, so $109,353.22 of donations this year. And with those recognitions, and again pointing out the approval of Mr. Dupens as our teaching and learning coordinator, I'd ask for your approval on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Erke, seconded by Ms. Tyre to approve the consent agenda items as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moves us into the recommended actions, and we'll start with the student achievement, the makeup snow day. Mr. Mayak, please.
And with this, we'll make it official, there will be no more snow days this year.
Okay, fair enough.
Knock down that one first, please.
Yep.
I
Approved.
jinxed it.
Approved, yeah.
I am asking for your recommendation to waive the makeup of the instructional day for students on our February 23rd canceled school day. We do keep this, the teacher workday intact, and they have the option of coming in and working their required contract day on either April 7th, April 10th, or June 5th. They can also use a personal day if they choose. And then our paras and our ASB union group do have the option of making up these hours on the canceled snow day. So again, the recommendation is to waive the student contact day. We've had plenty of information or details on the number of minutes required, number of minutes and whatnot.
Is there a motion to approve Mr. Mayak's recommendation on the snow day?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Engel, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to approve the makeup snow day recommendation, removing the student requirement there. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent evaluation form. Ms. Engel's been working on this a lot, I know, and
I haven't changed a thing since
Sure.
last year,
okay,
unless anybody looks at it and wants something different.
sure. If people have been following along with that and are comfortable with that, and Mr. Mayak, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I was just gonna say too that if you're keeping the form, then you would act and approve that form publicly.
Sure.
And on record, if there was more discussion or more work, to table
Right.
that and just put it off, but.
Sure.
If you want me to
As
look at
is.
it again, I haven't looked at it since last year.
No, and that's perfectly fine. I do think that we do need to revisit it annually so that we do make
Okay.
sure that it's accurately, you know, reflecting what, but it's probably a better time to actually address that after the evaluation
Right.
and when the board follows up with the summary of the evaluation at that time, we should perhaps just glance at it and as a board, see if there is a different focus area, you know, as construction projects adjust and change budgets, things of that nature, we need to sometimes adjust priorities in the district. So great work, and thank you again, Ms. Engel, for kind of taking that on. And as long as everyone's comfortable with it, that's wonderful. But we'll get into a more systematic time on that, perhaps the August, September timeframe to approve next year's tool. So we're ahead of the curve there a little bit. But with that, we would entertain a motion to approve that superintendent evaluation form as presented then.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Shanerock to approve the superintendent evaluation form as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have staff reductions due to enrollment. Mr. Mayak, would you?
Yeah, you've been provided with a list, and I'm recommending that the board approve the unrequested leave for the following teachers without pay or fringe benefits due to the reduction in student enrollment. Ms. Wigman, the FTEs of our business be reduced 0.167, which is 2 sections. Mr. Sorum in the Ag department reduced 2.5 FTEs, which is 3 sections. And Mr. Rutt with our industrial arts program and being a out-of-field permission, that would be a reduction of 0.75. And just again, the note on that one, that that is a posting that takes place every year with an out-of-field permission teacher that we're required to post it for 60 days and do our due diligence, finding a licensed and qualified person for the different positions that we have. So again, I'm asking for your approval on the unrequested leave of absence.
These actually we will do individually, and when we have you introduce the resolution, then I will read the resolution here and we will vote on those individually. So starting with Lise Wigman, is there a member that would like to introduce that resolution?
So
I don't believe there's an, is there an, oh yeah, and then we need a second for that too, please.
Second.
So member Schmidt introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption resolution proposing to place Lise Wigman on unrequested leave of absence for 0.167 of FTE position due to reduction in student enrollment. Ms. Engel, could you do a roll call vote for that, please?
Terry Engel, aye. Amy Erke, aye. Aaron Phillips,
aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock,
Aye.
Pat Tyre,
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. Moving forward, Mr. Sorum at a 0.25 FTE position reduction. Would we have a member to introduce that resolution, please?
Also moved.
And a second also.
Second.
Member Lauren Schoenrock introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Resolution proposing to place Dan Sorum on unrequested leave of absence for 0.25 the FTE position due to reduction in student enrollment. That is seconded by member Tyre. Ms. Engel, roll call vote, please.
Amy Erke, aye. Aaron Phillips,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock,
Aye.
Pat Tyre,
Aye.
Rick Schultz,
Aye.
Terry Engel, aye.
Resolution carries. And finally, Mr. Brad Rutt, a 0.75 FTE position. Would we have someone introduce that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Member Pat Tyre introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Resolution proposing to place Brad Rutt on unrequested leave of absence for 0.75 of FTE position due to reduction in student enrollment. That is seconded by Ms. Erke. Roll call vote.
Aaron Phillips,
Aye.
Dan Schmidt,
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock,
Aye.
Pat Tyre.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye.
Terry Engel. Aye. Amy Erke.
Aye.
That resolution carries, so I believe that too, oh, yes. That concludes the reductions, correct, Mr. Maya?
That is it, correct.
Okay. And then now we have a non-renewal of a probationary teacher. Mr. Mayak, please.
Yeah, the consent agenda, you were notified of the recommendations for tenure status along with an update on our staff members receiving or completing their first and second year of probationary status. With that, I'd also be asking for your approval and recommending the board approve the non-renewal of probationary teacher Devin Redmond.
Do we have a member introducing this resolution, please?
So moved.
Second.
Member Aaron Phillips introduced, Ms. Erke seconded the following resolution and moved its adoption. Resolution relating to the non-renewal of the teaching contract of a probationary teacher. Whereas Devin Redmond is a probationary teacher in Independent School District number 2168 in Richland, Minnesota. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 2168 that pursuant to Minnesota statutes 122A.40 subdivision 5, the teaching contract of Devin Redmond, a probationary teacher in Independent School District number 2168, is hereby non-renewed and will thus terminate at the close of the current 22-23 school year. Be it further resolved that the written notice be sent to said teacher regarding the non-renewal of her contract as provided by law, and that said notice shall be in substantially the following form. And this form is attached here. Roll call vote, please.
Terry Engel. Aye. Amy Erke.
Aye.
Aaron Phillips.
Aye.
Dan Schmidt.
Aye.
Lauren Shanerock.
Aye.
Pat Tyre.
Aye.
Rick Schultz.
Aye. I believe that concludes the non-renewal, or you want to
The
read?
non-renewal, correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then the notice of the non-renewal, do you want that read here too, or?
No, that doesn't, if
That
it's
doesn't-
posted
okay.
and mentioned that way, then
All right.
Sue will take care of the requirements. And
Appreciate that. All right, then we are moving on to the licensed school nurse FTE adjustment.
I shared with you some information on what's exactly needed for the districts, and really the biggest take from this is that for a district over 1,000 students, there's different rules for districts that are under 1,000 students. And the long and short of it is, it's our discretion on how we would fill and how we would occupy according to the standards and requirements of the state, legally having the licensed school nurse position filled. So with that information, Carrie Petzinger has requested a reduction of FTEs from 1.0 to a 0.02 FTE, basically 1 day a week versus 5. The board is asked to consider approval of adjusting Mrs. Petzinger's work from 1.0 to 2.0 for the 23-24 school year. And along with this information and the staff that we have in place, that we would be using Carrie as the official licensed school nurse to take care of the requirements and submissions to state. And then a licensed practice nurse and a unlicensed assistive personnel, or UAP, is currently in place, and we look to fill the needed hours and days with those two people. So I'm asking for your approval of the reduction of Carrie Petzinger.
I'm just, I wonder, because I was reading that too today, that on the MDE site, but then they also go on and say that you need to take into consider the number of students with chronic health conditions, number of students on individual health plans, how many students are receiving medications every day, emergency medications, students on IEPs that require health involvement. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into deciding if you need a nurse more than one day a week than just the number of students, like you said.
Right.
And so I'm just worried, I mean, we're gonna go from 5 days a week, bam, down to 1, and with, I'm not comfortable with that.
I agree with Terry. Are we adequately staffed? I mean, are those people are aware that staff those positions, that they will be, I mean, that it will be, is it more work right now for them after she?
No, the
She's
number of
staffed the
hours
office
and
now?
responsibilities would remain, or the number of hours and days would remain relatively the same. The responsibilities would still be under the supervision of Carrie as the licensed school nurse.
But she's not here.
No, she wouldn't be. And what I'd ask you to do with that consideration or with that discussion is approve this reduction of a requested leave of absence. We would then in the future decide if we're comfortable with a 0.2 or 1.0. We would make an unrequested leave, or potentially could have an unrequested leave of 2.0 or 0.20, and then look for the full-time equivalency that you would feel most comfortable with.
Good clarification, thank you.
The bottom line of this is someone, Ms. Petzinger has approached us with this, correct? I mean,
That's a
Is-
requested leave of absence.
right. So I think some of this we have to kind of keep in our mind as this is the employee coming to us saying, this is what we can cover. Is it ideal in our minds? Probably not, but I don't really understand if we have that authority to say, well,
Right.
I mean, we could from a standpoint of if you can't meet that entire need, you have to step aside. However, if he feels we can manage, it's worth the effort in my book to try that and until
But aren't we just voting on giving her permission to
have 1 day a week.
have 1 day a week?
Right.
But if we feel, and so we can pass that, but if we feel for
Yeah.
next year that we
Absolutely.
want half-time or full-time,
Yep.
Well,
Right.
And she does say in that too, that she's open to, yeah, I mean, she
Yep.
could resume, yeah.
Yeah. And to clarify too, that it would be the board's discussion or decision on keeping Ms. Petzinger at a 0.2 and then hiring a second person
Right.
to fulfill the need.
sure.
Because we might have, I mean, if we decided we were in a perfect world at that 1.0, we might have trouble finding the 0.8
Correct.
to,
Yep.
so we do have the authority to
We can make an unrequested, put it as an unrequested leave of absence, that
And
that
advertise the
employee is
entire-
then entitled to a 0.2 of the position if we increase it.
She is.
She would be entitled to the 0.2. We would post it as a 0.6, a 0.8, a 1.0, whatever you decided was necessary, and we don't have the requirement, or there's no obligation for us to break that up. We are looking for a full-time employee, and so while she has right to the 2.0 part of it, we also have the managerial rights to hire one person or two if you would like to split those FTEs.
Does that help with
Yes,
some clarification
that
there?
clarifies it, yeah.
Okay. And again, it's,
So when would we decide when we were gonna look for
We could
a
put-
full-time nurse?
Yeah, we could put it on the April
Okay,
agenda.
okay.
We could add that potentially to our study session next week
Okay,
to discuss further, and then
all right. I'm
Take
comfortable
action.
with that.
you have some ideas in your mind though of coverage with this particular, should be part of the equation, correct?
absolutely, that.
Okay.
That
Some
we
explanation
have
of how
the
you see coverage.
required, or we meet the requirements to fill the office space.
Sure.
And what I hear Ms. Engel talking about too is just that the value, the importance, the knowledge of that licensed school nurse is kind of the decision that we need to make, is having that safety net, having that,
Well, we need to know more about
Accountability.
the population and what the needs
Sure.
are of
Okay.
of the kids that are enrolled here, because I don't want to have them underserved their health needs.
Very valid discussion. Thank you for the discussion, because it is a big subject, so. I would still entertain a motion to approve the nurse FTE adjustment as presented, if we could get someone to move to that motion.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to approve the licensed school nurse FTE adjustment as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We did say earlier in the meeting that we have a new employee with us this evening, and I would like to introduce you, Mr. Tupence, to the people here and give you a moment to, yeah, if you thought you were going to get out of here. If you thought you were going to get out of here without having to say anything, do you have a slideshow for us tonight?
I just want to introduce myself. I'm Jason Tupence, the officially new teaching and learning coordinator, and I am super excited to get to work with the team and really just immerse myself in July in the Panther community. So thank you very much, and I look forward to getting to know you.
if you don't mind, we obviously can see the nameplates and whatnot, but if we want to introduce the board members and your years of service or anything else you'd like to add?
Dates, like 62
I'm
dates.
Amy, I'm new here. Hi, nice to meet you.
I'm Pat Tyre, used to work with data in the district, really happy you're on board. So I've worked with the district for 24 years, and I'm a new board member too, so, yeah.
Dan Schmidt, this is my 6th year on the board.
Rick Schultz, and anybody want to fill in for?
A long time.
I was born and I got on the board.
Oh my God.
What was
I've
it?
been here quite some time, but yeah, enjoy it, so welcome.
Terry Engel, I worked as a teacher in the district for a long time, and then was involved with the curriculum for a few years. And then I decided to retire so I could get on the board.
And really fix things.
Yeah, somebody's got to keep them in line. It's just like, it's a full-time job.
I'm Lauren Chainrock, I farm west of the Richland. I've been on the board for 2 years.
Aaron Phillips, first year board member.
Thanks again for joining us.
And you only have to dance at homecoming, ask Mr. Maya. We have video.
Don't fall for those guys. Yeah.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Engel, seconded by Mr. Schmidt to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I kind of want to come to your meeting now and have the report on what you learned here.